Thanks for tuning in and welcome to the Post Route Show. And now, here's your host, W. Earl Kitchings.
Good evening and welcome to the Post Route, the show where we dive deep into conversations with Black quarterbacks, both past and present. I'm your host, W. Earl Kitchings. This show is proudly brought to you by Quarter Phi Back, the preeminent fraternity for Black quarterbacks and home of the prestigious BIP Memorial Trophy. The BIP Memorial Trophy is the only national award that honors both the top HBCU quarterback and the top Black quarterback from high schools around the nation. We're always thrilled to have you with us tonight. And if you enjoy our content and want to support what we're doing, it's simple. All you have to do is hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss one of these outstanding episodes. Join us live every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more phenomenal conversations. Tonight, another one of these outstanding quarterbacks that we've got on the show. And this gentleman has put up some numbers and done some things in his college career that are still in some circles being talked about. Hailing from Durham, North Carolina, Hillside High School, and I'm going to have to ask him when I bring him on, how he really escaped out of Durham, North Carolina, knowing what surrounded him in high school. But our guest tonight went on to play at Georgia Tech, transferred from Georgia Tech, and went on to have a phenomenal career at James Madison University. I looked up some information, and he's considered the fourth best quarterback ever to play at James Madison. They say set a lot of records, had 7,300 yards almost in total yards, 68 touchdowns when he played at James Madison. Went on to have a career in the CFL, played 6 years there, and then left the CFL to settle down and start some things of his own that we're going to get into. But ladies and gentlemen, fans of the show, we are proud and honored to bring to you tonight Mr. Lavaedeay Lee, a.k.a. Vad, to everyone who knows him. Vad, welcome to the Post Route.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Appreciate being on, appreciate the invitation, and certainly excited to talk some ball, talk some career, talk life, everything else on the agenda.
Well, I've already been prepped by my son telling me that, man, it's going to be a great conversation when you talk to Vad. So I'm like, okay, I can't wait, because after looking at some of his stats, I'm like, wow, that guy had a phenomenal career. But Vad, I got to ask you, man, I know a little something about Hillside High School up there in Durham, North Carolina. I went to college with a guy who played quarterback back in the early 70s at Hillside. Didn't stay too far from the campus. But what I want to know is, how do you get away from North Carolina Central, Duke, and the University of North Carolina, which are all within a 20-mile radius probably of your home? How did you escape there and get to Atlanta, man? Because I don't know why they let you get out of North Carolina.
Have you seen that skyline in Atlanta? Oh, man. Being from Durham, North Carolina, going on these recruiting trips, I went to visit Georgia Tech, and, man, I will tell you, they recruited me the hardest. They recruited me the hardest. Man, they told me your billboard to be up there in the middle of it. The campus is right dab in the middle of Atlanta. And you start dreaming, you start envisioning things. But no, truthfully, Duke University was my first scholarship offer. My sophomore year out of high school. Again, went to Hillside, which is an historic high school. Is basically an HBHS, a historic Black high school, right? I'm not sure if that's a thing, but if it is a thing, Hillside High School will be number one, right? We have had phenomenal talent come out of there. And, I often reflect and look back at my career and figure out like, man, how did I get out of North Carolina? I love North Carolina. I love my home, but I will tell you, my heart was broken. I was a number one quarterback in the state of North Carolina. I finished out as the number one player in the state of North Carolina. And I grew up a Tar Heel fan. Um,
Okay.
I grew up, even though I'm in Durham, right down the road from Duke, I grew up as a Tar Heel. And the coach at the time, I played receiver my sophomore year. So I came in as a quarterback. We had a quarterback that was better than me, and he was older than me. His name is Corey Gaddis. He ended up going to Duke as well. So he was a scholarship guy, and he was playing phenomenal. So as a young guy, I was learning from him. And my high school coach, Antonio King, who played quarterback at Hillside back in the day as well, and went on to play in college. He was like, man, let's get you out on the field so you can get your feet wet and everything. So they put me out at receiver, and I run a 4.4. And so I ended up finishing the year at receiver. I was the back. I never practiced at receiver, but I was always the quarterback, the backup quarterback. But on game day, I would get out there, and I ended up finishing the season with over 1,000 yards receiving my sophomore year in high school. And so when coaches came, they came and offered me as a receiver. Now, I was confused by that because I'm telling them I'm the quarterback. And they're looking at me like, son, I seen your film and you're the receiver. And so that kind of got misconstrued. A lot of people was like, oh, we want you at receiver, we want you at quarterback. And anyway, I was the quarterback. And UNC kind of broke my heart on that. They came down at the end and really wanted me bad at the end, but they had already, Georgia Tech had already came and they were recruiting me really well. And then also the other school, NC State came into the picture. That's probably my second choice. They were in the time where Russell Wilson was the quarterback for them, but they also had Mike Glennon. And I could not understand. I was tied to that because they were sharing if I come there, they'll keep Russell or they'll figure something out. And I couldn't understand how they were even thinking about letting Russell go. And I'm just like, I see another black quarterback. Of course, Mike Glennon ended up having an unbelievable NFL career as well, college career. But I just, at the time, I was looking at Russell as like the premier guy who I modeled my game after. And they were considering letting him walk. And I was just like, man, if they're going to let Russell go, then I don't know what they're going to do with me. And so I was a little unsure because of the black quarterback conversation. Georgia Tech came in and they told me from day one that you're our number one guy. And of course, they ran the triple option, which I didn't know anything about the triple option. I had no idea about the triple option, so we can get into that later. But they told me I was their number one guy, and that's all I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear somebody say, hey, you're our guy. You're our quarterback. We're going after you. And unfortunately, a lot of the Carolina schools were unsure about that.
Van, do you think that is a deal breaker for guys who are quarterbacks, man, to be, in that spot, man, and, you're getting recruited? One school is telling you they're looking at you as a receiver. One school is telling you maybe a defensive back. So it gives mixed messages. I mean, how much does that mixed messaging play in the psyche of a kid in high school? Because we're talking about high school guys going to a college, because I know if I was a guy, I don't want to play anything other than what I'm familiar with.
Correct. I was trained to be a quarterback, and I can't help that I'm a little athletic, and I'm a football player. I can be versatile, right? But in high school, we didn't play both ways at my high school. They got to see me as a receiver my sophomore year, which having 1,000 yards as a sophomore, you would think that this guy may be the number one player in the country having 1,000 yards receiving. But it does play a big part in the psyche of a quarterback, because I knew my worth, I knew my value, I knew what I could bring as a quarterback, and I ended up being the number one player in North Carolina for a reason as a quarterback, and top 100 in the country and ESPNU stats, and so it's interesting. A lot of people wouldn't come out directly to say it, and so that's what made it hard, because people believed in you to be the quarterback. but they weren't sold out for you being the quarterback. And so, even at UNC, they never said that I was going to play another position. However, they did start naming everybody on the current roster that played quarterback in high school that now play safety, wide receiver, linebacker. And so even though they didn't say it, I got the message. And so that really broke my heart. In fact, I'll share a quick story. When I was at Georgia Tech, my coming out game was actually against UNC. And it was the highest scoring ACC game at the time. The school that just broke the record was my alma mater. Last year, James Madison went in to Chapel Hill and put up 70. We put up 68 at Georgia Tech. Wow. And anyway, before that game, I was torn because I knew everybody on that roster at UNC. Yeah. And I was a red shirt freshman. This was my first time really being able to play. Ended up scoring like 3 touchdowns, threw for like, over one something and ran for over one something. And that was my coming out game. But before the game, when I got out of the bus, ran out on the field, did my little walk, run through. And then I came back in that locker room and man, I cried my eyes out. I cried my eyes out because I've always envisioned myself to be on the other side. Gotcha. And I was like, man, I'm on this side, but I always thought that I'll be on that side. And I had one of my best friends growing up. His name is Trayshawn Council. His dad actually worked the grounds at UNC. So while UNC was recruiting me, we would go to games and we would also have access to the locker rooms, to the away team when they had to clean up because of his dad. So I used to go and grab wristbands and quarterback towels. I had that type of access. So, man, I thought that thing was done and set for UNC Tar Heel. And so when it didn't happen, I had a lot of emotions tied up to that. But I wouldn't trade my story. I ended up going to Georgia Tech. And man, we were able to put in a good licking on the Tar Heels. I never lost to a North Carolina team as a college quarterback, both at Georgia Tech and James Madison. I believe I went, as a starting as a quarterback. I think 7-0 as a starter against all the Carolina teams. That includes Duke, UNC, Elon, and I think that's the only teams that we played. I don't think we played NC State as a starter, but yeah.
All right. Now, so now you got that recruiting trip to Atlanta, man. The big city lights and the skyline and everything is looking good. When you got to Georgia Tech, did anyone happen to share with you, because I do this quite often, did anyone happen to share with you who the first Black quarterback was at Georgia Tech?
No.
Okay.
No.
But I mean, that's fine because I'm glad to hear you say that because now I can, add on to your history. So the first Black quarterback at Georgia Tech arrived in Georgia Tech in 1970. He grew up in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
He grew up in Gainesville, Florida. He played at probably the most known high school in Gainesville, Florida. He led that high school to a state championship in basketball, but he was an outstanding football player who could throw with his left and his right hand.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it just kind of seemed to make sense that, well, he'll end up playing for Florida.
Right.
Never happened. He went on to become the first Black quarterback at Georgia Tech. His name is Eddie McShann.
Wow. I'm gonna pull out my notebook. I'm learning tonight, so I'm gonna have to write that down.
And he, first of all, you say Georgia Tech. Well, that's not an easy academic school just to roll up into. You better have some smarts. But it was just phenomenal to see that guy not play at Florida, and then 2 years later, a guy I played football with in high school went to Florida. But it's interesting to hear your story because so often guys are asked to play another position. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to be true to yourself, if Carolina or Duke didn't want you to be that quarterback, then the best thing for you to do is to go to the place where they really want you to be that And if that was Georgia Tech, so be it. And that's what happened,
Absolutely.
man. And I'm proud of you for making that decision, man. And I'm sorry that you did not get the chance to play at your school that you wanted to play, man. But I'm just kind of like, man, Carolina State, Duke, A&T's, Central, Winston-Salem. It's so many schools in Carolina. It's like, dude, but I understand.
Well, I will add, I will add growing up, and I'm sure you might get this often, or, just to add to the dialogue. When it came to the HBCUs, growing up, I had no awareness about HBCUs. I had very little awareness, and I know that might be hard to believe for some, but I never even went. I'm from Durham, and I never even went to a Central football game until after college.
That is phenomenal.
And I actually grew up on the same road. However, on Saturdays, I was playing football, Pop Warner, right?
Oh, okay.
I was playing football. And then when it came to high school, we hung out on Saturdays. We really didn't.
Wow.
Well, I was getting recruited by these bigger schools very early. My freshman year, very early. Wow. And so I was getting tickets to these big games, and never even thought or had somebody pull me and say, "Hey, man, you need to come to this in North Carolina A&T, Central." I didn't have many influencers. That my high school coach, he probably did. But for the most part, man, on Saturdays, we was trying to get better. We was in the film room, trying to get better after Friday night lights. And so, because I didn't see HBCUs on TV regularly, I really didn't have the education when it came to HBCUs. And that's one thing that I appreciate about what you're doing here. But also, that's one thing that I think is an opportunity. And I think that we have expanded that since then. We're on ESPN, we've had some big time coaches go to HBCU, which we've always had big time coaches, right? But some popular names in the current history. But that's one area that I look back at my life and I realized that I didn't give HBCU a chance because I didn't have the education or the knowledge or even the TV. I didn't see.
You just weren't exposed. You just weren't exposed, man. I mean, and I get that. I get that. In this day and time, at the time you were in high school and college, or looking to go to college, some things just aren't on the purview because all these other things are coming at you. I guess I'm just a little surprised because when there's an HBCU, right there in your backyard, it's almost kind of hard to not recognize the fact that it's right there. It's like, dude, it's 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
So, but what was meant to be, I will say this, what was meant to be is what was meant to be, man. And
that's right.
Irregardless of that, I'm sure you can look back now and say, well, have you been to a Central game?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir. And I absolutely loved it. You know what? I take it back. I think I did go as a little Pop Warner. Our team went because I grew up Pop Warner Durham Eagles. We actually won the Pop Warner Super Bowl, the first team in our organization to go all the way to Orlando, Florida, and win the Pop Warner Super Bowl. I was playing running back then. I actually was the MVP of the Super Bowl game.
Wow.
And that was my first interview when I was like 9 years old. My first TV interview. Yeah. And yeah, so I've been to some games, and in fact, my freshman year, my first HBCU game I ever went to was a FAMU game, and my friend Jamal Williams, his parents went to FAMU, and we drove to their homecoming game. We had an amazing time. It was so I was a little bit educated or exposed, but not engulfed in the HBCU culture.
Right. Well, if they took you down to Tallahassee to a FAMU homecoming, brother, that's almost like a done deal, man. It's like, man, you look around, it's like, look, you see how many people walking around here that look like you and all this. It's like, it's unbelievable, man.
That was big time. I'll forever be grateful for that game. And that game is always in my mind.
Okay. So now you get to Georgia Tech. Did they pencil you in kind of right away that you were going to kind of be their starting guy? And what did they tell you once you got there and started performing?
So it's interesting. I got to Georgia Tech, and we used to actually play Georgia State. They were an up
Mm-hmm.
and coming program.
Mm-hmm.
We used to play them in 7-on-7 in the summers, player led.
Okay.
And we used to play them 7-on-7. And Georgia Tech is a triple option school. When I arrived, and the wide receivers and guys started, seeing that I can throw, they like, whoa, we got some, we could potentially add on and have some more passing opportunities and things of that nature. And I'm there so naive, right? And let me say this. This doesn't discredit the guys that was there before. The guys that there were before could throw the ball as well. However, when you don't work on your fundamentals in the
Mm-hmm.
pocket, it can be easy to lose that. It can be easy to kind
Mm-hmm.
of lose your rhythm. And
Yeah.
and I even was a part of that. And so when I got there, man, I'm there telling everybody, I'm saying, man, I'm here to change the offense. And I'm here to change the offense. I'm this young freshman, just came off a state championship, 16-0 at Hillside High
Yep.
School, state player of the year. I'm here to change this offense. I'm here to change the offense. And my teammates, the older guys, are looking at me and they say, "You say what?" I'm here to change this offense. And man, they look at me and they start laughing. They start laughing. I could not understand why they was laughing. And they like, "Oh yeah, you too? Okay, all right. We gonna let you see. We want you to stay that way, but you'll find out." And I quickly learned that triple option is what they do. That's what
Yeah.
the head coach. That's who he is, and that ain't changing. And so, no matter what they told me, no matter what they aspired to do, triple option was the bread and butter. And to its props, I played for head coach Paul Johnson, who's a Hall of Fame coach, and he's a Hall of Famer for a reason. And the triple option is what Georgia Tech needed at the time. That's what they did at the time, and that's who they were. And I was coming into foreign territory, really. They say I'm coming to change things. It was foreign for me. I never took those midline steps before. Really, a lot of my offense was in the pistol formation, so that was one of my first times being under the center, and so there was a lot of just a lot of learning for me early on. So when I got there, I was actually I was tied as a second string quarterback, and they told me to prepare to play. They didn't know how the season was going to go, and so I went into every game thinking that I was going to play. They like, hey, you might get in this game, and we started off shaky, and it was like, oh yeah, you definitely might get in, and then next thing you know, we started doing really, really well. And it was kind of known that, hey, it wasn't known, but after about the seventh game, it was like, all right, you're going to redshirt.
Okay. So, I mean, of course that happens, but then the next year, man, you had a very good year. You passed for over 1,500 yards. You ran for 500 yards. So you definitely had made some strides to learning that offense and being a factor. But what changed for you that made you want to look at some other opportunities?
So when I first arrived, I recognized that my skill set wasn't desirable for a triple option quarterback. I run a 4.4. That's my 40 time. However, there's a difference. There's different 4.4 speeds, right?
Sure.
There's some guys that are quick 4.4, and there's some guys that are striders 4.4. And for me, I was a 400 guy in high school. I ran the 400, and that was my race, right? I was not a 100 guy. As a triple option quarterback, you need to be more like a 100 guy versus a 400 guy. I'm not saying that the 400 guy can't make it happen, right? But you need to be a fast, quick guy, quick twitch, right? And for me, I was a strider. And so for me to get going in the run game, I'm more of a scrambler, make things happen in the pocket versus just get the ball and go.
Yeah.
And so I recognized that early on. Now, with that being said, I stuck through and I said, I'm not going to give up on the decision that I made. I'm committed to this decision, and I seen some opportunity to expand the offense, not change the offense this time. Now it's like, okay, maybe we can expand the offense.
Right.
And we did, Coach put in shotgun formation. Believe it or not, we did not do shotgun at all. Very maybe 2%, right? And when I had an opportunity to go in, I was in the shotgun every play. My red shirt freshman year, they put me in the shotgun all the time, and I split time with the starting quarterback my red shirt freshman year, and when I got in, everybody knew that was the shotgun package for me,
right?
And so we did really well. I was able to do well. We beat USC to win our first bowl game. I think under Coach Paul Johnson. No, that wasn't his first bowl game, but no, it wasn't his first bowl game, but it's been a while since we won our first bowl game.
Sure.
And we beat the Trojans, USC Trojans, in the Sun Bowl. And man, you go back to that game, man, I'm in the shotgun running all over those guys, and I had opportunities to pass the ball as well once the run game got going. And so that next year, going into the redshirt sophomore year, I'm juiced up. I'm fired up about the opportunity to continue to expand the offense. And I remember we played against Duke, and I ended up throwing 4 touchdown passes against Duke. And but it was something, Coach Johnson, he, at the end at the press conference, he said, we got to get back to what we do. We got to get back to more of what we do. And we were in the shotgun that game. I mean, I was loving it. I was feeling good. And through 4 touchdowns, I don't think that doesn't happen many times in triple option history, right? Quarterback history. And so I'm juiced up, fired up. And he's like, no, we got to get back to what we do well. And we got back under the center and we started running, our normal offense. And we didn't get back in the shotgun much after that. And for me, I was a little disappointed. I was disappointed, especially after coming off a 4 touchdown pass game. I was disappointed. And so that moment at the time, it almost felt like a slap in the face to me as a starting quarterback, and just me being excited about the possibilities of where we can go. But to Coach Johnson's defense, I don't want to make this feel like it's a bashing party. That's what he does, and that's what he does well. And he was able to prove that for many, many years. So I personally have to respect that. And as a mature man, I look back and I respect it. But I didn't like it, right? And so so I decided that's when, I kind of knew then that I don't know if I could stick it out, simply because I wanted an opportunity to show the NFL that I could win in the pocket as well. And I knew that if I didn't show them that in college, then it was going to be impossible for me to show what I can do at the next level. And so that ultimately is what led into my decision to transferring. And at the time, transferring wasn't as common as it is today. There was no transfer portal. I would have had to sit out an entire year if I went to another big school, which I had other big schools looking at me, but I would have had to sit out and lose a year. So I decided to transfer down a level to James Madison University.
Great. Well, look, I'm going to take a quick time out. We're going to come back, talk about that career at James Madison and life after football for you, because I understand, man, you are quite the father now. You got a couple of young ones that you're bringing up. So we're going to come back and talk about that after this time out, Vad. Stick with me.
Sounds good.
All right. Our guest tonight on the post route is the phenomenal quarterback, i.e., the guy who played at Georgia Tech and took his talents on to James Madison, where he put up some outstanding numbers, passed for over 5,000 yards at James Madison in 2 years, ranked as the number 4 all-time passer at James Madison, Vad Lee. So we're going to get back to him. But while we got this quick time out, I want you to know that, hey, look, here it is. If you haven't check this out. We are now looking at bringing you our full line of products. And okay, there it is. There it is. So now you can see it all at one time. Our full line of merchandise that we are promoting at this time. So at the top, in the top row, you've got our logo t-shirts. Then you got our warm-up. We're introducing our own quarter-5 back hoodie. And the hoodie is going to be in a football-style hoodie that you see there. It's orange, black, and white trim. So that's what our hoodie is going to look like. Hoodies at $70, warm-ups at $90, t-shirts between $25 to $40. Then on that bottom row, we got our quarter-5 back golf shirt. Then next to that, we've got our bucket hat with our quarter-5 back logos all over it. If you like that, you can get one of those, $30 for those. Or if you just want a traditional cap with the logo on the front, you can get one of those for $30. And if you want to look real classy when you're going out and make people ask you, what is that logo? Get your lapel pin, quarter-5 back lapel pin. Those are only $10. That is our first line of merchandise. We've been talking about some of these things, the golf shirts and the warm-up, but now we're expanding a little bit. So this is our merchandise page. Quarter-5 back merch, the preeminent. So you can call in or order on our email us and tell us what you want to order. We'll get that out to you ASAP. If you want to increase your library, get you a copy of my book, The Forgotten QBs, the little known history, information, and statistics about Black quarterbacks in American college football. This book is filled with a lot of information, statistics, stories, short bios about a lot of guys you've maybe never heard about, but this book will definitely update you, and it is only $35. Again, you can type into our email at quarter5back@yahoo.com and order your book or your merchandise. We accept Zelle at 904-994-2189 or via Cash App at $Q5back44. And then lastly, we want you to know that we are continuing to update our blogs on our website. Go to our website at quarter5back.com to find out more history and information about Black quarterbacks, whether they're individual newsletters that we put out or the newsletters that we do on colleges to give you a background as to all the Black quarterbacks, the predominantly more highlighted ones who have played at their particular colleges. Now that I've got Vad Lee on the show, I'm working on a new one now for James Madison because they've had a few Black quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about that when we get back to him. So if you're looking for information about Black quarterbacks, we are the place. If you want merchandise, please check us out at quarter5back.com. Get back to my guest tonight, Vad Lee, former quarterback at James Madison, and our guest tonight. So we're happy to have him on. Vad, getting back to these guys that played at James Madison, because I went and did a little research. A guy by the name of Eric Williams looks to be the first ever Black quarterback who may have played at James Madison. He's in the Hall of Fame there. Rodney Landers, Justin Thorpe were a couple of guys before you. Then you came along and put your name in the history book. And since you, Lonzo Barnett and Jordan McLeod have become names in the program. What was it like when you got to James Madison, when you transferred in, and did they basically give you a green light that, hey, we're going to run this offense from a passing concept and you're going to be the guy to direct that? Because your stats are phenomenal, man. In 2 years, 5,500 yards passing, you did some things, man.
Well, first I'll even share, I got hurt my senior year. So really it was a year and a half.
Okay.
I didn't get to finish and I share that respectfully because, when they come out with the rankings of who's the best quarterback at JMU, all that good stuff, I understand that you have to take in consideration, the total body of work right on the field. But when you compare my stats, right, to anybody out of those, I don't think I only played maybe 16, 17 games.
Sure.
I was on my way to doing some phenomenal things. So I'd like to think that I was one of the top, but anyway, I'll leave that up for somebody else to decide. But to your question, there was a Carolina connection so Carolina broke my heart, but it came back. You know how when your heart gets broken and come back. And so anyway, the head coach, Everett Withers. Everett Withers was the defense coordinator at UNC when I was getting recruited. So I kind of had a familiarity there with Coach Withers. He was at Ohio State, and he had just taken a job to be the head coach at James Madison when I was looking for a new school. And so I was his guy. He was my guy. And it was kind of like, all right, let's go do this thing together. Now, when I got to James Madison, they had a record-breaking quarterback already in place. They had a guy who the last coach just got fired. And so now this new guy has to prove himself again, like I had to. We all got to prove ourselves. And so it was a quarterback battle in the spring. It was a major quarterback battle in the spring. Yeah. And this guy actually has prototypical measurements. He had one of the strongest arms that I've ever seen from a quarterback. Okay. And I respect him. I believe we both have respect for each other. And man, we just went at it. And so it kind of came down to the spring game, who outperformed each other in the spring game. And it just so happened, I had performed really well in the spring game. I think I had like a 60-yard touchdown run, and I threw for another 200 yards in the spring game. And our team won. And so I think that kind of showed that was like the time where everybody got to see game action. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I think this guy got what it takes. And so when I got to James Madison, I was like a freshman all over again because the campus at Georgia Tech is straight up academics, smart. Yeah. I mean, you're at the top of the top, right? When you get to James Madison, you're still at the top of the top academics, but man, they have another element that they add to their campus. It's in the middle of the mountains. It's a college town. So that was my first time being in an environment where I'm in a college town versus the city of Atlanta. Sure. And so when I got there, I felt like a freshman all over again because that took some adjustment. And man, I'm excited. I'm juiced up. I'm like, man, this is what I used to see on the movies, right? And it was great. My team embraced me from day one. And one of the greatest compliments that I received from one of the captains of the team, he said, man, you was this big time quarterback coming in here. We all knew about you, but you just seemed like you was just one of us. And that was one of the greatest compliments that I've received because I wasn't trying to be anybody I wasn't trying to be this big time Georgia Tech ACC starting quarterback coming into this smaller school, right? And thinking that I just was going to earn it. At the time at James Madison, we had a lot of transfers come in, and I've seen a lot of big time transfers not even start or even play because they was under the mindset that they was just going to come in and it was going to be handed to them. I knew that I had to work for it, and that's what I was able to do.
So in addition to that, Vad, it also sounded like your teammates respected your leadership. And to me, that is a big thing, man, because, you're talented. The other guy's talented. He can do some things. You can do some things. But what it comes down to, man, is leadership because guys are going to follow that guy who they believe in, who they trust. And for them to tell you that from the very outset, man, you felt like one of them, they pretty much said to you, hey, man, we ready to follow you. And it sounds like that's what happened.
Yeah, man, that was one of the greatest compliments that I received. And that was from a team captain from the previous year. And so that meant a lot to me. I wasn't a big partier. I was there to show what I can do on the field from a passing standpoint. I had my opportunity in the ACC. I played in the ACC championship games. We was 1 to 2 touchdowns away from hosting that trophy. I played in some big time bowl games. I played against some big programs at Georgia Tech. But here I was here on business. I was here to show man, I can throw the ball too. Of course, I'm an athletic quarterback, dual threat. but I can beat you from the pocket. And it took some adjustment. Again, I spent 3 seasons in a triple option system. And it took some adjustment for me to get back in that form at James Madison.
You said earlier, and I thought this was kind of a very valid thing, that when you have to transition from one type of offense to another, you can lose some of your skills. So when you went from being a passer to a triple option guy, you get a little rusty with being that drop back guy. So now you have to leave Georgia Tech, and within a matter of months, man, you got to retool yourself to be this drop back quarterback, this passer again. But again, you've been there for a long time, so I'm sure it didn't take long for you to just kind of drop back in and find that rhythm again. Talk about a couple of the big games, man, because, we don't hear about James Madison a lot. And me being from a small school, I did graduate from Florida A&M, just so you know.
Okay, yes, sir.
But, the rivalries, man, make up sometimes are so much better at the smaller schools than they are at the larger schools. James Madison, what conference are they in when you played? And what was a memorable game or two that you remember that, man, really juiced you up and made you feel great about being at James Madison?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So James Madison was a part of the CAA at the time, and James Madison went through kind of like a stretch where wasn't doing well. And so that's when usher in a new coach, Everett Withers, and usher in a new quarterback and myself. And I remember my first games, again, it took me a while to get back in that pocket passing form. Yeah. Right. And I remember we was playing against like St. Francis, Stony Brook, and all of these schools, and man, they was coming at me. They were like, man, you can't throw. You this big time quarterback, but you can't even throw. And man, you were triple up. You were running back. Right. And, so clearly on the scouting report, I was a running back and playing quarterback. Okay. Thinking that I can pass the ball, right? And so after a few games, one of the turning points in the season, we started off slow, but one of the turning points in the season was a game against Villanova. Okay. And we actually lost that game, but I remember my coach. It was a high scoring game. I remember my coach bringing me to the bus. He brought his computer. He said, "Hey, come up here." And I'm like, wow, they got Wi-Fi on the bus. Like we already got the film up. And of course I'm feeling down. And he's like, bro, you did some amazing things. Do you know how many yards you threw for? It was like 422, something like that. That was my first 400-yard passing game. Sure. And he was just pouring confidence, even in a losing effort, right? It wasn't a losing effort. Even in a loss, we put together a winning effort, but we just ended up losing the game on the last second field goal. And but that was a turning point for me because it's like, I just threw for 400 yards. Our offense was rocking, and we was just a couple plays away from winning that game. And this is an opportunity to keep doing this. And so it was that game that was a turning point for us. Then we played our rival, the Richmond Spiders. And, we played the Richmond Spiders. That was our rivalry. And I ended up throwing for like 422 yards. I think it was the highest passing game in James Madison history. And I think it was the longest passing touchdown. I think we went for like 90 yards. And it was a play where we've been practicing our no deep concept, which means that, man, they're sending everybody, right? Yeah. And man, I know this is the post route show, but our no deep answer was a corner route, the opposite of a post, right? And that was my call, though. That was whenever I seen it, I could change the play, which they gave me unbelievable access to our playbook where I could change it, put us in a better situation. And it was that moment where, I brought in the extra blockers. I told the running back to stay. We had the tight end and we did a slide protection to give us time because we don't have enough. But if I take a few steps to the left, then I can give my receiver time to run that corner route. And man, it was executed to perfection. Okay. And that was one of those moments where it was like, okay, I got this offense under control. And I think that we can take our game to the next level. So I would say, man, those were some memorable games my junior year. And if we go into my senior year, there will be two games that I have to highlight. One against SMU, where I became the Mustangs, and they played us on their homecoming. And man, went there. They gave James Madison a bunch of money to beat up little JMU on their homecoming. I ended up throwing for 289 and running for 270 something in that game, and we won with the last second touchdown pass, a corner route again, and against no D, they brought it corner route, and then that made every ESPN, Sports Illustrated, everybody started tuning in to James Madison. And then College Game Day came to James Madison against the Richmond Spiders that next game. And that was a game I went down with an injury that ended my college career. But, man, that was an unbelievable week knowing that College Game Day was coming to little old James Madison.
Yeah.
And they don't come to FCS programs like that. And we were like one of the first that they came. And so anyway, I have a bunch of great memories, but I'll highlight those games.
And at the same time, they found out who Vad Lee was.
Yes, sir.
They found out he was an outstanding football player. So Vad, you got an opportunity to go to the CFL. And I know everybody's dream, if they're playing football in America, is to go to the NFL. However, quite a few guys have gone to the Canadian Football League and had phenomenal careers.
Right.
When you got there, would you say that the Canadian Football League, based on the scheme of what they do, is at a place faster than the NFL? Because 2 downs and it's 3rd down. I mean, and it's punting as opposed to 3 downs. What would you say would be one of the major things that you really have to say made a difference about playing in Canada versus just regular American football?
Well, first, again, I want to highlight the same points that I highlighted with HBCU earlier in the show. I didn't know a lot about CFL either. You know, the dream was ACC, NFL.
Right.
Because I'm from Durham, North Carolina. So all I see is on TV, I see Carolina, see Duke, NC State, right? And then I see NFL. And so didn't have a lot of education about CFL. And so I was coming off an injury. And now one of the things, like you said, CFL was not my dream, right?
Yeah.
Now I would tell a lot of young people that may not be a dream, but that's an alternative to get to your dream.
That's an opportunity.
And it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I wanted that opportunity. However, when I got there, it was a combination of things. I didn't start in camp. I got there in the fifth or sixth week of the season. And so I'm getting thrown into the fire, and I don't even know much about the game, right?
Wow.
And to your point, it is somewhat, I wouldn't say that it's faster than the NFL because there's a lot of talented guys in the NFL. But conceptually wise, which are receivers, especially being a quarterback, you have to learn the cadence of bringing your receivers forward, and they're running full speed to this line of scrimmage, and you got to know when to snap the ball, right? So that's already that's the biggest thing right there.
Yeah.
I haven't even got to the play yet. I'm trying to get these guys going. And that's one thing. And then the field is wider and longer.
Yep.
And so now I love that because I have a big arm. And again, I love those corner routes, right? So, man, I can put that ball way over there. And, and somewhat it was faster. The getting used to the 3 downs.
Yep.
Man, if you make one mistake, you're one play away from punting. Yeah. And so I actually got in my second week there, my first week, I want to say. I arrived. My second week I arrived, and then the next week, man, I got in. The other thing too is they had me in the number 24. Now, again, I was not educated on, wearing them a 44, right, at quarterback. And, a lot of Canadians, sometimes they have different numbers, right?
Yeah.
I felt a little like uneasy about that because I'm a quarterback wearing a number that's not typically a quarterback number. And I'm just like, why would they put me in the number 24? I'm a quarterback. And all my life I've been battling this thing where I'm a quarterback, not an athlete. Right? I'm
Right.
an
Right.
athlete. I'm an athlete. Let me not say it that way. I'm an athlete, but I'm not no other position. I'm a quarterback.
Right.
And
I'm a
so
quarterback.
that was a little bothersome a little bit, but it wasn't bothersome enough to make me like, maybe not like look at the opportunity. But I also was coming off an injury as well, and so my foot just wasn't quite the same.
Yeah.
I had a Liz Frank injury that
Okay.
I went through, and it needed time to heal, and I didn't. I was 6 months from surgery. Actually, I was 4 months from surgery, the second surgery of them taking the plates and screws out of my foot. And
Mm.
so I didn't feel like I was quite ready. And
Yeah.
so I actually didn't have a long Canadian career. I ended up, I was there for a couple months. And then I decided that, I didn't know if I wanted to continue on because, again, this wasn't the dream for me.
Sure.
And then also, I'm injured. I'm the type of guy that when I'm injured, or if I don't feel like I can fully give you 100%, then it's kind of like I'm taking somebody else's opportunity. And
Sure.
so, yeah, of course, I ended up coming back to play, which we can talk about that later on. But my first stint, which was my only stint in CFL, I didn't see it to fruition. Looking back, I probably would stick it out. But CFL, at the time I was getting paid, I think the league minimum was 42,000.
Yeah.
And I kept looking, and that's Canadian dollar. And I said, man, I'm playing professional football, but it don't quite feel like it.
It's not
And
paying like professional.
and I'm eating, I'm eating noodles and noodles or ramen noodles. I'm serious. Now I'm eating noodles every day because I didn't have a transportation. You're kind of out on your own, and
Yeah.
to be 22 years old, my first time being out on my own in a different country. I'm thinking like, man, I really don't know what I'm doing here, and so it was a tough adjustment for me to kind of get adjusted in that environment.
Well, like I said, there've been a lot of guys who've played up there. Quarterbacks. One of the most prolific passers to ever play in Canada is the brother to Marcus Allen. His name was Damon Allen. Damon Allen played 23 years in Canada, threw 72,000 yards. So he had a phenomenal career. We all know about what Warren Moon did. So it's been some guys there, man. But I just wanted to bring that out because the Canadian Football League, it is different based on the fact that it's 12 guys on the team on the field. It's wider, it's longer. You can go in motion full speed going forward, but 3 downs. There is no fair catch rule. So it's a lot of differences there, and adjusting to that is a big deal. But like some other guys, when you said about your foot not 100% healing, it reminded me of Byron Leftwich when he came to the NFL. They didn't give him a chance to heal when he got to Jacksonville. He said he didn't really heal till he got to Pittsburgh. So I understand. And before you know it, man, it's like, okay, time's up. It's time to start looking at, okay, life is now setting in because I can't play football anymore. My injury is not going to allow it. So, okay, it's time to move on. Real quick, how difficult is it to make that adjustment to say, well, the injuries are not going to allow me to play anymore. I need to start looking at life beyond football.
Oh man, that's difficult. That's extremely difficult.
Okay.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
It comes with years of every August, every football season, August 1st hit, my body is ready to get, my body is trained to go,
Yeah.
even still to this day,
Yeah.
right? And so it's a difficult decision, which is why I started a nonprofit organization, Purpose Over Position, what I'm wearing on my chest, and it's to help athletes to transition, and not just transition, but to transition on purpose and to transition well, because you need somebody else to help you process that, because you can get stuck in the heyday. You can get stuck back in your glory days and think that that's all your worth and value is. How the heck am I supposed to move on from that? And but man, when you understand that you were created with a far greater purpose than just the gridiron and on the football field, you realize that, man, that was just a position that I had, right? That was a position that I owned. And I learned that my senior year at James Madison when I got hurt and I seen that next quarterback go in and I seen that referee blow that whistle. It taught me a life lesson. It taught me that, man, I thought that position had my name on it. I thought that was mine, but I quickly seen that position is fleeting. Is one of those things that can go just like that. And so for me, I had to come to grips with understanding who I am as a person, who I am outside of the field, and that has motivated me to help other guys as well.
Well, we got a couple of minutes before we close out. Speak a little bit about your foundation and the book you and your daughter kind of collaborated on.
Yeah, so we've written a few books now, but Purpose Over Position started out as a book. Purpose Over Position: Discerning God's Plan to Live a Life Full of Purpose, and that book was really healing for me. I didn't get to finish out my college career. I was so close to making it to the NFL, and I was a draftable prospect, but I wasn't available when it was my time to go. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote that book, and I didn't realize, but that book was a lot of healing for me, but it also served a lot of people as well, because I get a lot of athletes come back to me and say, man, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was the only one that felt those emotions, but you wrote it. And so wrote that book in 2020. And also in 2020, my wife and I, during the George Floyd situation and everything that was going on, we didn't know what to do. We were so emotionally drained, but we felt as though we had to do something. And so one of the solutions that we felt, we wanted to write a book. My oldest daughter, her name is Saraya. She calls everybody her friend, no matter what they look like, no matter what race they are, what color, She just says, when she see another little person, she thinks that that's her friend. And she always would say, Daddy, can I go play with my friend? I'm like, you don't even know this little girl in the grocery store, right? And we thought it was an amazing concept that if all people could be like the purity of a child, that's my friend, then, we can go far in life. And so that's the title of our children's book, That's My Friend. And my wife actually just recently collaborated with my middle daughter, because once you start having more children, she was the only one at that time. Then we had another child, and she's looking at the book and like, where is my book? And so we wrote another book called Dr. Mommy, and that's from my wife and my middle child Sanaya. And then we'll have another children's book with my son in the future as well. So we've written quite a few books.
Well, Vad, thank you so much for the time, man. I hate that we got to close this out, man, but we're at that time. But before we go, I want to do what I always love to do, man, and tell you, hey, by you being on the show tonight, you have now become a part of the brotherhood of Black quarterbacks known as Quarter Five Back, the preeminent fraternity. So, man, you will be getting your lifetime membership certificate and letter indicating that you are a member of this quarterback fraternity. Thank you so very much for all you've done and what you will continue to do. May God bless you and your family, man. And if you need us for anything, man, we're here for you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity and time.
All right. Thank you very much. That's Vad Lee, former quarterback at James Madison University, one of the greats that played there. Well, that's going to about do it for me tonight. I want to throw up the logo so Vad know that's what it looks like now. He's a member of Q5B, Quarter Five Back, and that's another brother that we welcome into the fraternity, and we're happy to have him. So until next time, I'm your host, Earl Kitchings. As we always say, go deep and go for the bomb. See you next time, everybody.